close it and it would peek it open.
Hello, everybody. This is good. This is good. We're gonna have a good time here. Good to see so many faces I recognize. It's a strange thing for me to do. This is a poem wrote as winter was closing. Winter is a very kind of shitty, depressing time. You feel all locked up about it, and I was kind of stoked that it was ending. The song's called, this poem doesn't actually have a title, now that I think about it. The grip of the winter is loosening ever, so slightly as spring falls in with the feather of a robin, red-breasted, so cocksure and clever, whose skill has been tested, but with will unmolested, has dutifully nested the first branch that's possessed it. And if not for the winter, would see that tree splinter to be made into matchsticks or stacks of bleached paper before easing on even its tiniest taper. But neither muscle of brass nor a hide of tan leather excuses the truth you can't plan for the weather, unless you wish to be caught at your post by the tether, to sob with the flock of some soft-legged shepherd, when the wind stirs the sky in unsettling heather, then it's best not to lock any knot you can't sever. For nature deranged may consider no better a time she should strike than at two birds together, to break from the breast a ruffled red feather that falls from the branch where the family had nested, from bodies once nimble, now wholly arrested, to usher in spring like a prayer that has blessed it. The rival that's winter, for then has been bested. And still fair is the weather and the change of the season, for worse or for better, there is no good reason. That's one. This is one that doesn't rhyme, it's still about nature and trees and shit. I could be as big and as strong as an oak tree, a century old, and high in my branches nests could be built, and chicks born of soft blue eggs, chirping strings of melody that dance between the percussive rustling of my leaves and the wind, completing Mother Nature's most subtle composition, her magnum opus. And beneath the coarse bark that is my skin, inchworms and beetles and plump gray larvae burrow like germs beneath a scab. A sickening sight only to those whose notion of beauty is narrow as my most tapered end, and in fact will some day soon water the mouths of those baby birds, helpless and confused as they are now. And maybe at my feet a fox runs in circles, gnashing its teeth at the quivering tail of a hare, while I stand tall, though not on guard and rooting for neither. I could be the great oak tree, earliest incarnation of life on earth, and quite so strong as the will to live itself, the one true king and overseer of all the lush green land before me and all who have made it home. And still ain't it the truth that I'd be no match for a swift enough swing from a mean enough axe. That's it. Thank you. This one's called The Nail in the File. It has some naughty language, so I apologize to these folks right here.
Lots of old farts?
That's not what I said, not my words. An old friend caught the best of me with just a wild smile for casually requesting me adjust to suit his style while crying all the while. Though cool upon his entry, soon a hot and bloated head and a favoring of pussy that has barely even bled revealed itself instead, and said, I'm certain that her beauty, the draw of her allure, a trick they've played to tempt me, my own despondent whore, I ache to break her more. For a moment let the smile and the vastness of the gaze extinguish for a while even thought of tween her legs and some 50 different ways you'd blow your load across her face. To always mind the rest of her and mind her still with style, that itself a handsome trick, the caulking tween the tile, the nail in the file. Thank you. This one's called The Dressing of the Cadaver.
Cheerful.
Another loyal servant, dead as a doornail, a coffin like a wicker basket, collecting fallen fruit round the gnarled stump of a family tree. A well-bled dry to a toast of glasses, never before more certain that they are indeed half empty and not half full. To contemplate a burning or a burial, the dressing of the cadaver, is to question the fate of the yellowed Christmas tree upon the arrival of a bright new year. For that wonderful spark of life, that immeasurable depth, only ever amounts to the time it takes a burning match to kiss a cold river following the passing of its flame. That's that. This is what my grandfather wrote. I figured I'd stick it in here because he's a really great poet and he's been writing poems longer than I've been alive, so he sent this to me the other day. It's called Silver Spoon. He was born with a silver spoon up his nose, lived life on the edge, curled up in the crack, escaped from the boredom, did time out of mind. He shot without bullets, killed without kindness, bled all his customers, drank his life dry, got high on the horse that rode him so hard, then fell to the bottom and died. Thanks, guys. This is really neat. Let's give a hand to my man Josh here for putting this together. And all these wicked art of life. This thing over here is blowing my mind. This one's called She Means to Me. I showed up at my, saw a bunch of my friends the other night rap this one out for me. It was pretty cool. I'm not gonna rap it though. It's called She Means to Me. She means to me what does the breeze to the weeping willows swaying leaves. She the grass sharp and green I dig between to plant my seed. I sleep to dream to see the means that I would need to make her queen. I'd build her hive with sweet saliva and gladly be her worker bee. Endlessly her majesty would soothe the weary heart of me and teed the tender parts of me like a tiger would a carcass eat. Starting with the softest meat, but leaving only bones to bleach and bake to dust beneath the heat of a sun that like a mallet beats down on the beast there where it sleeps, the scene serene with sparsity. I sometimes find it startling and regard it as the hardest thing my heavy heart is harboring and surely always will. The truth that she's infected me and I could never let it be, so that I mean most literally, for that love I would kill. This one's kind of a bummer too. It's called Swallow. What is it that makes me want to swallow her whole and feel her elbow my throat the whole way down? Stand doe-eyed in her shadow and feel it grow around me like a wet spot through silk as her body flung from a window plunges toward me with the force of a buffalo driven off a cliff at Spear's End. And what makes me suck the blood from my lip where this alley cat has swiped me wide open and still do my best to cradle her like I haven't half a mind to let her be. Dreaming never of her as she really is, but instead of snagging a young fish in the belly, catching my hook so deep that with my bow and pole I wrestle her ashore, examine her and contemplate setting her free, but decide that I'd rather cut her up the middle to see what she had eaten last and if she bore eggs before I choke all of her down. Buried in the heart of my love there is a cold metal to which I am a magnet drawn so closely that her manner becomes peripheral, and sometimes I think if I could just reach in there and take it from her, then that's what I would do. This is another one I didn't write, but it's Canada Day, so I figured I'd do a poem by Leonard Cohen, because he's like Canada's greatest poet, right? So this is one that always stuck with me because I think it's kind of funny. It's called The Music Crept By Us. I would like to remind the management that the drinks are watered and the hat check girl has syphilis, and the band is composed of former SS monsters. However, since it is New Year's Eve and I have lip cancer, I will place my paper hat on my concussion and dance. Pretty good. This is my last one. Thank you, guys. This one doesn't have a title either. Look out, world, I'm on my way. I've just got things to do today. I've worked all week, my pay's all spent. Oh, but mom and dad don't charge me rent. Besides, I gave up food for Lent, and at very worst, I own a tent, so save me a spot on the Walk of Fame so that tourists can stop to gawk at my name and shine up a Grammy just for me. In any category, really, I mean, except for best country performance by a duo or a group. There are levels to which even I wouldn't stoop. I suppose that's unless it's a real paid gig. And I could quit serving coffee to overpaid pigs. I could fix my chipped teeth, I could buy some new shoes. Hell, call me a redneck and pass a Pabst Blue. I'll write you a song right here on the spot. Can't be hard, look how far that Billy Ray got. Why slave every day over meaningful art when I can toss off some shit like Achy Breaky Heart, and I can move to a mansion on a beach in LA. Or further inland, but still in LA. I'll marry a model and we'll get a divorce. And she'll get the house, that two-timing whore. Then I'll blow my brains out all over her car, so that all that remains of my life as a star is a skull that's concave and a suicide note. At least till I'm dead for a decade or so. When they bulldoze my grave and display all my bones, backhand my soul and bend over my ghost, and rebuild my career on nostalgia alone. World, look out, I'll be on my way, if ever I find the time in the day. Thanks, guys.
Oh, good start.
Hello. All right. I wrote this when I was 16. I often get scared I can't express myself, either social oppression or deteriorating health. I have this reoccurring dream where my jaw locks, and when confronted with conversation, I can't begin to talk. See, when this happens, it's frightening to death, because in the end, words are all I have left. Now, everything I say has sense or meaning, either is terribly smart or incredibly demeaning. I'm rough around the edges and may seem psycho, but remember, there's a method to my madness also. I know what I'm doing, and I can never go too far. Trust me, remember me, the morning star. And then I was in a band, and we wrote this one. Tears filled his eyes as the last ship left. He hid in his shirt and secretly wept. The boat went off on another quest. He asked himself, what do I have left? He went back to his private yacht, all alone with his thoughts, lying in bed defeated, feeling as though he'd been cheated. Out of a perfect ending, a life still pending. He contemplates what to do. He thoroughly thinks it through. Plan to win her back, but her willingness he lacks. People move on, he couldn't move on. He tried to move on, but hope wasn't completely gone, because after the darkest night, there's always a new dawn. Nope. He swam till it hurt, and then he swam some more. He could feel his pulse resonate to his core. Just as the ship got close, it disappeared into a mist. As he started to sink, he recalled their first kiss. It was soft and warm like nothing before, unlike the water on the ocean floor. At the bottom of the sea, he remembers the beat that his heart kept when they first met. He runs out of air, his eyes glaze over with a cold, dark stare. The love she had is now lost at sea, but his heart still bleeds, believe you me.
Sorry about the wait. I know the anticipation is killing all of you.
You walked in, couldn't help but glow. I was drunk as fuck, probably showed. I saw you again, you were still shining. I was sober now, but your beauty was blinding. I knew at that moment that it was probably true, that I am now glowing because of you. You guys can rip that off and read it to your sweethearts. This is another good one for that. I mean, I'm not, but it's okay. I bet it's soft and I bet it's warm. It would provide me with comfort during a storm. I beg you please just let me touch. I'd be oh so grateful. I would thank you much. Your bum is pretty and your bum is nice. If it were pie, I'd like a slice. So that's as happy as it's getting. So rejoice in that for a while. I wrote this one the other day because of Canada Day. You'll get why right away. I have a stack of fireworks piled high in my closet. I bought them to celebrate your recent success. I wanted you to know how proud I was. I never lit them because I always found them in your eyes, be it the stars or a lit cigarette that would make them twinkle, as the sides of your smiles accentuated your dimples. The first time we made love, we bought a pack of menthols. This taste still makes me sick with reminiscence. The last time we smoked the rest of your virginity cigs along with our existence. That's it. You guys like that one, Les? Don't say yeah.
Cheerful, cheerful.
All right, so this one has two parts. I wrote the first part when I was 18, and you'll hear about the second part later. This is why you shouldn't break up with me. And it's usually screamed, so try to feel that intensity. Let's pretend you love me like you said. Would it matter at all? Would you still want me dead? You made a decision that can't be undone. For all that you lost, I hope it was fun. My range of sanity is out of focus. I'm lost, I'm nervous, I'm hurt, I'm anxious. You fucked me up more than you know, and my lack of love, I hope it shows. I've been drained of everything I have to offer, and I don't see things getting better. All the crimes you had in you, you committed when you said you loved me. I guess you didn't mean it. I won't kill myself. I'm no longer here. I'm empty inside, thanks to you, my dear. I'll be accepting free hugs.
Free hugs.
Over the past month, my band wrote an album, and these next few ones are from that. To believe or not believe at all, no vacancy in the terminal ward. Lance the abscess with a double-edged sword, put faith in the Lord and you will fall. Suffering is common as the common cold, and you will suffer till you're scared and old. The pensive argument that waits and sees, this rat-infested city will forever bleed. The fear of capture through my days, a rope hung from the rafters stage. I finished my last meal and kicked the chair, but on Tasha Sweet Ponzi, if you dare. A chalk drawn across for goodness and trust, there is no difference in murder and lust. Passive lives with nothing more, still find redemption at their core. And this all has to do with this city that gets taken over by the plague, and it's real cheerful. Coming to terms with disowning my faith, abandoning morals just to escape, into a world where I control, my vision of violence I can behold. Burden of fear, hope disappears, God's cold shoulder casts a shadow. To think I was once repulsed by my deepest desires, I can now freely pick innocence from its field of flowers. Pluck her fresh bulb before it expires, a sweet seraph to myself in our city's final hours. I continue my minutia until the day I snap, with hours as bleak as black. Dissecting the seconds brings about great tension. My infested home is under inspection. There will never be no truth, no remorse over time, for unrequited love will forever be blind. Okay, so remember I said there's a second part? This is the second part. Forever apologizing for my misinterpreted will. It goes without saying, but I miss you still. I pushed aside anxiety to write you this letter. From the desk of my deathbed, timing couldn't be better. I recall those nights I helped you long past curfew, just to ensure a feeling of safety. After the passing of time, I wonder if you still hate me. My iceberg awaits and my end is near, but before I go, I'd like to make one thing clear. Even miles away, I still miss you more every day, with everyone around me passing away. Keep a shred of us in a tangible state, for our reunion may never be our fate. I still love you more. Oh wow, this is a good part to
There could be a third part.
There could be a third part. You guys can clap, and then when I remember, I'll come back to it. All right, here's one I wasn't going to do, but I'm going to do now to redeem myself. I cannot be a positive addition to your life unless you thrive on grief and strife. Not a partner in crime, but a hostage in denial, until she testifies to my horrors at my trial. Burning the bridges I cross in my dreams, my vision of beauty is disease. There's no pleading out of what I've done, I've opened the floodgates and drowned. Under a wave of sorrow and narcissism, in the eyes of her Lord unforgiven. The road to perdition is paved with good intentions. To slowly break down her walls of security, to drain her safe world of compelling continuity, a break in the gears of a well-oiled spectacle, rearranging her feelings to become unpredictable. Unwelcome penance for crimes committed, a written apology, crudely submitted. I can't talk my way out of this one. I'm unforgiven. I am trusted by no one.
Do the Lord.
Okay, I have a short story. It's like poetic. You guys want to hear it?
Oh yeah.
Yeah? Okay. All right. I am the bearer of God's will. Every morning I wake with a raw taste in my mouth, natural and untouched by the hands of superficial practices. I cleanse myself in prayer. At the foot of my bed, I plead for deliverance. I run a cold cloth over my body. I anoint my head with the fragrance of ghosts. When I let the smock fall over my head, when I dress in the holy drapery of my profession, I open my eyes to the darkness, then the light, when its weight comes to rest on my shoulders. Every day when I pass the cemetery, I think of what the dead must know. I put faith in their awareness and await for what comes. The death toll rises and the flames follow, consuming the pestiferous bodies. No new graves are dug. God's forgiveness only goes so far, and I can see now that we've taken his kindness for granted. In my sermons, I remind those in attendance that they brought this upon themselves. A black shadow has been cast over our sleeping town, and we must rise to face our destiny. We live every day in the wake of God's diseased breath. Yes, there are those who continue to fight against his inevitable will, and I say to them, stop wasting your time. I am well aware of the hope you share, but it is only misplaced faith in the role individuals play in their fate. Let the might of his wrath cleanse you of your forbearance so that you will reach an enlightened state. From household to household, I travel bestowing atonement to the dying. I find catharsis in the retelling of their carnal passions, and emptiness in my absolutions. I hold on to the words as if their weight were enough to crush me. It is a corruptive duty, and I fear that I cannot cope with this gripping fantasy that continues to taunt me. I walk into a room to give the last rite and see the gnawed remains of innocence on a sweat-soaked, infected bed. The child of beauty opens her big eyes and smiles weakly. Her angelic face is untouched by the horrid disease, while her neck and her body are filled with lace sores that leak pus and blood. Annabelle, pure and innocent, her eyes open again, her lips part, and when she calls me father, I am filled with anger and lust. I make jealous gestures over her slender body and hear the emptiness of my incantations. It is a terrible lust, a jealous lust, that I cannot consume her like this disease. I wait for her dying breath to close her eyes. When I brush the side of her face with my hand, her rosy lips are still moist. I turn, and in the corner, an anti-plague nurse stands with a body bag ready to bring the beauty to her incineration. I hold such hate for this useless, sinful creature, ready to combat God's will. Her attempts only amount to pointing out his mistakes and trying to erase all signs of them. Poor Annabelle, an innocent rampage lamb suffering while this imbecile stalks around with her useless uniform and her body bags. In a fit of rage, I take the bag from her grip and cover her face with my hand. She struggles and falls to the foot of the child's bed. I pin her under my weight. As I consume her, I imagine Annabelle's alabaster face, and the comfort of illusion brings her again in full. Her scent filling up beneath my grasp, her frail, warm body pressed against the floor. I crush her like their words crush me, those empty incantations that bring about death quickly or slowly. Her body becomes acquiescent as my disease consumes her. God presents her to me again, and I accept. I can't apologize enough for the hate I dealt or the lack of love you must have felt. The last thing I remember is you saying this didn't feel right. I cut you down from there with words as my knives. I know what I say isn't worth the breath I spend. I don't require hope, I'll fight it to the end. If you gave me your heart, I'd probably break it. My life is yours, take it. Thank you.